This is Jalen.H. This is my week 5 interactive journal on self-assessment. Before I begin, I want to apologize if there's any background noise. I'm staying in a hotel for a family thing right now, and the AC is kind of on, so hopefully that's not too interrupting. But the week 5 interactive journal is on self-assessment, how students can assess themselves and their quality of work and how they can progress. So I found some helpful ideas and strategies to kind of explain my perspective of that and how I would express it to students, specifically the students I'm focusing on for this unit. The small assignment that we have coming up next week is for first grade students working on reading and writing. So I thought, why not take the time to research and find what may work for self assessment for those students. So, starting off, importance of student self assessment. I defined it as being important because it helps students take ownership of their learning. Instead of depending only on teacher for feedback, students learn to reflect on what they understand and what they still need to practice. This develops metacognition, or the ability to think about their own thinking. When students build this skill early, they become more independent and confident learners. This is especially important for first grade students. They're kind of having that jump to where they're coming out of preschool and kindergarten, where almost, I'd say maybe 80 or 90% of things they do are guided, whether it's curriculum or getting up to get lunch, or just simple things like that. Learning, they're usually getting helped out by teachers or teachers' aides, and that's awesome. But when they get into first grade, elementary level, and beyond, there's going to be a lot of expectations for what they can do alone. So the fact that we're kind of stepping into having them understand that importance of self-assessment, it comes from their ability to be reliant on their progression. Self-assessment may also support equity and equality in the classroom. Every student has the opportunity to reflect and share how they feel about their learning. It shifts the focus from simply earning a grade to growing and improving. When students regularly evaluate their own progress, they begin to see mistakes as opportunities to learn rather than failures. Students can also pay mind to setbacks or distractions that make their learning more challenging, and also pay mind to helpful strategies. This is also really big. Students paying mind to things that are working great is awesome, just as important it is as them paying mind to things that are hard. Like a student trying to focus on getting their work done, but they notice that they get distracted by talking to another classmate. They can include that in their self-assessment. Or a student saying, "Hey, my progress comes from when instead of sitting in the back during class, I'm sitting in the front closer to the teacher and the board." Paying mind to those independent things that are saying, "Hey, this is what's helping me do great things, and this is what's helping me do not so good things," is very important to their path of independence. So the question that comes next is how I would teach students self-assessment in first grade. I feel like you had to keep it very concrete and simple. Like I mentioned before, they're in the process of learning independence and getting work done by themselves. But this is usually the first look that a lot of them get. This is usually them having to do work in class with help, but they have to challenge themselves. So I thought keeping it direct and simple goes a long way while also being fun and making them know, like, hey, it's okay to fail because I'm here to pick you up and make sure that everything's okay. You're going to have some up and downs, but I'm going to make sure that you keep climbing. To introduce self assessment to first graders, I would keep the language simple and as direct as I can. I would explain that self assessment means checking our own work to see how we are doing. I would model this process during reading and writing lessons by thinking out loud. For example, after writing a sentence, I might say, "Let me check my sentence. Did I start with a capital letter? Did I use spaces? Did I put a period at the end?" So if a student wrote something like, "I went to walk my dog," I'd have them look over their sentence. Did you start that I capitalized? Did you put a period or a question mark at the end? Are you asking a question or are you making a statement? It's the little things that they'll pick up on over time and they'll understand it. And it'll make them, stop and think sometimes, which is very important when they're on their path to learning. I think something that would help a lot because they're still kind of relying on that positive reinforcement and that applause. I would also use visuals such as smiley faces or a color system to help students understand levels of understanding. That positive reinforcement and that display of affirmations may help them understand how exactly they are doing and how they can improve every day. Practicing together as a whole class would also be important before expecting students to complete a self-check independently. Over time, students will gradually take more responsibility for reviewing their own work. This is very important because I feel like if a teacher were to just say, "Hey, you guys are in charge of yourselves now, you have to do this, jump into it," a lot of them are going to be lost and confused. Being that leader and being that vocal presence that says, "Hey, I'm going to help you guys gradually ease into being able to assess yourself," and gradually figure out how independent you guys can be. It goes a long way. Some students are going to pick it up quick. Some are going to take a lot more time than others. This is where those accommodations and being flexible as an educator goes quite a long way. It makes them feel cared about. It makes them feel comfortable to rise and fall in a learning environment, which is very, very important for young learners. So my technology tool was Google Forms. I'm going to get into it. I just wanted to say I used it, I believe, a week or two ago for an assignment regarding how adults would be in meetings. And I thought, hey, that was pretty simple for them to follow. This would also be easy for students using technology and things like that. To create a digital self-assessment tool, I would use Google Forms. Google Forms is simple to design and allows teachers to include pictures, short questions, and multiple choice questions. For first grade students, I would include things like images of smiley faces and limit reading demands. I'd keep it simple and direct and make it something that catches their attention immediately, especially in a digital way, something that they're seeing across their screens. Students could complete the form on a tablet or Chromebook after finishing a reading or writing task. Obviously, it depends on what is provided for the students. I'd say 98% of students in public schools are usually on laptop devices like Chromebooks. I don't really see reading labs being that popular anymore, or computer labs. Usually the accessibility and the materials are right with them in the classroom, but this can be used on multiple forms of technology. Google Forms also collects responses automatically, which allows me, the educator, to quickly review student reflections and identify patterns in understanding. This helps inform future instruction and small group support. It gives me the feedback I need right away. It helps me understand where my students are striving at, progressing at, where they need to improve at, where they need help at, and it just helps me readapt and reapproach my whole game plan. So for the Google form, the following Google form is one that I made specifically for my first grade students. If they had just concluded a lesson on reading and writing, also made sure it aligned with California Common Core Standard, ELA Literacy RL 1.2, which is retell stories, include key details, and demonstrate understanding of their central message. So I just described with my last name, Mr. Hasworth Student Assessment. Obviously, before my students jump into this, it'd be a time frame when they're comfortable using technology. I wouldn't just use this on day one or on the first lesson. It'd be something that I'd have to make sure they're comfortable with and I'm comfortable with them using. So it would come, but it would come appropriately. So question 1, what is your name? They could say Bobby Smith, yada yada. What was your favorite part of our lesson? My favorite part of the lesson is blank, blank, blank. They could describe what they learned from the lesson and what they really took away that they loved. It could be something like, I really liked how you explained the big words, or it could be something silly like, I like how there was a cat in the story, something relatable. Give me a face to show how you're doing with our reading and writing. This is something straightforward and fun. Smiley face, so-so, and sad face. The student could say, I am doing great. I feel like I'm shining. I've got it down. Or they could say, I'm not having a good time. I need some help. That simple face with the response makes me understand what my students need. Did you use space and punctuation for your words and sentences? Why or why not? They could say, yes, I did. Or they could say no because maybe they got confused. It would just be something that's helping me guide them. It's not a test or something trying to make them feel bad. It's just helping me to help them. And last but not least, they would give me their favorite word or phrase used during this lesson. It could be something funny like goose, or it could be a big giant word for them like combination. Something fun that they're not used to that really stands out. So last but not least, I just redefined it in a simple conclusion by saying student self-assessment plays a critical role in developing independent, reflective learners. When explicitly taught and practiced consistently, even first graders can successfully evaluate their own reading and writing. Using a simple digital platform like Google Forms makes the process manageable and provides immediate feedback for instructional decisions. Over time, self-assessment builds confidence, responsibility, and a strong foundation for lifelong learning. Last but not least, I just finished it with references. Beard's document of the importance of student self-assessment that helped me very much navigate how I could define the words and define how my students could step into that, and also just reference Google Forms. Thank you.